Welcome back, everybody, to the Card Chatter with Refractor Jones and Bobbles and Ball Cards. We are about to kick off episode 21. This is the Friday episode. This will be releasing on October 7th. Today is October 6th. We hope you all have had a wonderful week. Thank you for everybody that has been out there listening. I know we don't have the biggest subscriber base or we don't get a million listens or whatever, but there are people we see you guys who are commenting. I had somebody message me yesterday and said, "Hey man, I gave you a 5 stars on Spotify. I prefer listening on Spotify." So shout out to Mike Krutz. Appreciate it, sir. He said that he doesn't like, when he's listening to a podcast, he doesn't like the interruptions with YouTube, and it makes sense. I know some people have like the YouTube Premium or whatever, but either way, whether it's just one of you guys or a million of you, we appreciate all of you. As always, we like to kick off the episode giving a shout out to Team Mason Forelli with Mason's Mission. Trying to do great things with that, helping other youth individuals that are battling pediatric cancer, as well as their families. So I will once again pop the QR code up, and if you can, we always appreciate if you're able to help, if I can talk this morning, Mason out with his mission. And again, as always, if you just want to hit that little subscribe button, we appreciate it. And we will pass along that appreciation via donation to Mason's Mission on your behalf. So, Refractor, it's been the first week of October. How has it been for you, sir? I know there's a few things going on with you. I know you got called out for your strawberry shortcake pump. I know your man Tua is a little under the weather. I know October isn't starting out in the best way, but it's gonna be Friday. Things are they're gonna shift around. They gotta look up. How are you doing, sir? Are you all right? Are you all right there?
Yeah, it's 5 o'clock in the morning. I guess I'm all right. I'm on 2 hours sleep, so I'm good.
Well, I'll tell you, you're doing a hell of a lot better than me on 2 hours of sleep. I am, I tease you about getting old, but man, I used to be able to stay up half the night and go on no sleep and this, that, and the other. And for the longest time, I was always like, yeah, I can run great on 6 hours. The missus used to yell at me every night. Why don't you ever want to go to bed? I don't know, blah, blah, blah. I don't know why you hate sleep. Now I'm like, sleep is great. So,
Yeah, believe it or not, that actually cost me a relationship when I was younger once. But I had a girlfriend that just could not stand that I wanted to be up, like almost half the night, and she would be like, "When are you coming to bed?" And I'd be like, I'm fine out here in the living room. I just want to watch TV and stuff, And
yep.
she's like, just come to bed. I'll be in there, And then of course I'd fall asleep on the couch, and World War III would start because I'd get hit with a pillow across the head or something. Come to bed. And I'm like, all right, God. I'm like,
So you mentioned, and we're not condoning war here, but you mentioned World War III. What about the new war that's firing up, churning along right now? The grading war seems to be getting a little deep. There's some sides making some strategic moves. Um, we got it's not breaking news now. If you're not within like the first 30 minutes of an announcement, it's no longer breaking news.
it's like 30 seconds.
Yeah, it's like, man, yeah. Shout out to Carlos. He got his video up quick. I laughed. I was like,
Did
man, he didn't even make it like 5-minute video. It's like a 4-minute, 24-second video or something.
Oh yeah,
He recorded it, popped it up, and good for him. I
that's
don't
pretty.
really get
That's
into
pretty
it.
short for Carlos.
Yeah, exactly. 4 minutes. Shoot,
Yeah,
he hasn't even yeah, man. I think he actually talked a little bit slower in that video too to get a little bit extra time
Oh,
out of
try to get some length on
it. But no,
Well
shout
done,
out to
Carlos.
him.
Well done.
I've seen a couple other people pop videos up. So this isn't breaking news, but we could talk about it, toss it in here. I'm more shocked because PSA's website isn't updated fully, because if you just go on there as a, like, I guess an unknowing individual and you look at their site, it says like starting at $22 for bulk. But there was an announcement kind of semi late last night. It was kind of teased around in a Instagram post where it's going to be $18 bulk and $15 for TCG. And they also adjusted the cutoff on the years. Instead of being like 96 and earlier or whatever it used to be, it's now like 1979 for the bulk stuff. So interesting to see. They've already did a shift. CSG, they have a special going on, 20% off for the month of October. So they're even, that puts their bulk at like $12. So
That's crazy.
yeah,
That's
there's some
great.
shifting going on. It's fun to see.
It's
We'll
good to
have to
see.
just,
I mean,
yeah,
it's good to see. It's
right,
good to see the numbers going the right way for us for once.
right. And we were discussing it right before we went live, and it's funny because PSA used to do a couple price changes a year. It was normally first of the year, and then probably around this time in the fall, or maybe it was late summer. But they would do a couple price changes a year normally, but it usually was like going up the opposite way. So kind of nice and fun to see stuff shifting the opposite way. Have to see what their demand is like. Maybe with two facilities, they obviously have a monster operation going on, and they can handle a boatload of cards. Uh, we discussed 5 to 6 month turnaround. That's not the greatest number, but at the same time, you think about that, they're doing a little over 1 million a month right now. 5 to 6 months is 5 to 6 million cards. That's a
Yeah,
lot. So
it's like I was saying, it's a big nut to crack. They have to keep feeding that machine to keep it operating.
well, to put it in other perspective too, like we look at 5 to 6 months, and sure, that's not great, but at the same time, I think that was their, maybe it was 3 to 6 months. I can't remember. It's been a while. Time has passed us by very quickly. That was very apparent to me yesterday. But anyway, 5 to 6 months is it's not great, but it's not terrible for a bulk submission. Um, and you think about, we sit and say, well, that's likely, they could handle 5 to 6 million cards in that time frame. The backlog that took them 18 months to clear out, that was 12 million cards. So this is half of that supply that took them 18 months. And they're saying, hey, we can do this in a third of that time now. So that's
Yeah.
pretty good to see too. It shows that, they obviously have confidence in their scaling. Now, do they stick to it? Does that 5 to 6 months stay?
All
We'll have to
depends on
see. It's to
yeah,
be determined.
it
I
all
think
depends on
it's
the income, right? On the incoming.
right, right. And we're going to see variables with it. Obviously in the beginning, you're going to see people getting their stuff back quicker, but it depends on the way you have to think of it. And I don't want to use this because obviously there was just a hurricane that, happened, but you think about like a tsunami or something come in, and it's not like this steady flow that's over a course of time. It's literally a massive like wave that just comes in all at once.
Yeah,
And that's where the issue is, because if it was a steady flow, then they work through the process, right? If over a
sure.
week they or a month they got, 3 million cards over a month, then they could start chopping it up. What do they do? I can't remember what it broke down to weekly, but you think about how much they can put out a week. If it flows at that pace on a weekly scale, they can keep churning it out. But
Yeah.
when it's like 3 million at once, well, that automatically puts you behind. So,
Yep.
and then you keep stacking onto it. So
Yep.
it'll be interesting to see how the new facility helps them and all of that. But obviously, you could look at this two ways. The demand wasn't there at $22, or they seen what came in at $22 and they were like, all right, we can handle more than this. Let's go ahead and drop it down. And that's good for
Mhm.
both sides. They were easily able to handle it at 22, and they were able to pass that on to the consumer. So
Yeah.
good for them. I don't say very many nice things about them, but good for them for adjusting. And then we'll just have to see how that plays out long term. But
Yeah.
I know folks have been waiting on it, so
Yeah, we're still off a little bit on the number though for someone like myself to actually say, okay, I'm gonna bite the bullet. I'm gonna sign up for the collectors club and go ahead and start doing my bulk. You know, for
yeah.
because it with me trying to grade full refractor sets, it just doesn't make any sense still at 18 a card. It's
How
just not there.
much how much do you even grade though? Because there is a declared value there, and that's one key part to keep in mind on the whole thing. And I don't know how stickler they are on it anymore, but I'll be honest, maybe it's just me, but the one time I sent an order in to PSA, I
You
was
got the
walking
upcharge.
on I was walking on eggshells. I was walking on eggshells because I was worried they were going to upcharge me. And
Yeah.
it's like this. I over time, we've lived in the home we're in for 7 years now, and I pretty much know how much my utilities bills are going to be each month. So think of it as I know that the electric bill's coming, and I'm expecting it to be $300, and I open it up and it's, I don't know, $600, right?
Yep.
I'm the person that likes to have my stuff planned out when it on a financial thing, unexpected things happen, but on the side of a bill, I want to know how much I'm paying. So I was walking on eggshells. I was like, did I price my stuff right? And as a first time submitter, and there's people out there that still to this day, and all of the talk out there of grading and the content out there and the googling stuff that's out there, people still are confused about like how do I price my card for declared value.
Yep.
And it's a topic that gets many different answers, but I went through all of the avenues, and there was one card specifically, my Luka Doncic Prism Silver. When I sent it in, I did kind of test the waters with that card because right on PSA's website it tells you, check out different things, check out local or recent sales, check out the SMR magazine, the price guide, all that. And I was like, I looked in the price guide and it said PSA 10 was $400, and I was like, cool. That fits me in with my voucher numbers because you could, I think it was 400 was the max declared value at the time.
Mhm.
And so that's what I declared it for. And that might have hurt me. I don't know. But eBay, they were going for about 1200 at that time for a PSA 10. But I went by the SMR price, which
Yeah.
was PSA's price. And it came back a 9. And I swore that card was a 10. So maybe they gave me my $400 value and said, okay, well,
Yeah.
you say it's 400, we're going to make it 400.
Right.
So it's one of those things. Just don't, you have two ways to go about it. Just submit it at a low value and let them upcharge you, or submit it at a high value of what you truly think it is. Whatever risk either way you go, you're either going to pay more, or you're going to, if it doesn't grade how you want because you undervalued it, then you're going to question yourself. Did they give me the value of the card as the grade on it? So
Yeah.
it's always a
I've
fun game.
yeah, I've always looked at it that way as well, exactly the way you're describing it. Because like, of course, I didn't do anything with him this year at the national, but the previous when I did some, I was like, okay, I know I'm gonna get upcharged here because I'm doing I'm doing this Jeter SP. I'm gonna be doing the '93 finest Jordan refractors that I have that I'm throwing into other sets. And then what else I had? I had Scoring Kings, Jordan. Trying to think, there was something else. I believe it. I believe I had a Griffey Bellingham, also Bellingham Mariners card that was there, and I was like, well, I know this order. There's not a PSA 8 here, so I know I'm going to end up getting an upcharge somewhere. It's just a matter of which one they want to upcharge me on. And sure enough, they hit me on the Jeter. So I went from $300 to $600 on the Jeter.
Yeah, I didn't get any upcharges. Instead, I just got grades that I didn't hope. And there's many different things about that whole order. I'm not going to get into that. That's old news now. We're going on 3 years ago when I sent that order in with them. But there was a learning experience with PSA. And again, to anyone out there that knows me or listens to this podcast or anything, I don't hate PSA as a company. It's a personal preference as a consumer that I don't like procedures and policies that they have in place. So I just choose to not use them. If
If I own PSA, what you just said would concern me, because that's something that's spoken of quite a bit, and they
Mhm.
never address.
And I don't want to I don't want to say this in the wrong way or offend anybody when I say this, but I know I'm a different individual than a lot of people. I know that. I'm very stuck in my ways at times,
Hmm.
or I'll put my foot down on something and stick to it. So that was like the whole thing when people were debating with me when I first started using SGC and everything, because everybody's like, but you're losing so much resale value. And I'm like, I don't care. Like, I legit don't care. I am a consumer. I am paying money for a service, and I'm not just going to throw my money to a company that doesn't care about me as the consumer. They only care about themselves as a company. And, sure, great. My card might sell for more, but, you know, that doesn't mean I'm going to pay a company that doesn't care about me as a consumer.
Yeah.
I'll put my money elsewhere, or I
Yeah.
just won't grade cards. So
Hmm.
nothing against anyone. Again, this isn't to crap on PSA or whatever, but I do wish they would change some of their policies, some of the way they handle their customer service. And,
Hmm.
as a company that large though, I'm sure I could Amazon, they might do things wonderfully and get your packages shipped out to you quickly and offer great pricing and this, that, and the other. But I'm sure if I had a reason to call into customer service, uh, I'm probably going to at some point get a rep that I'm not happy with. So, I can sit there and look at it that way too. Their PSA is such a large company now. Not every customer service rep is going to give me the service that I feel as a consumer I deserve.
Yeah.
But overall, their policies are just questionable too. With, I don't know. You hear so many horror stories. I didn't have any issues, but you hear so many horror stories of the upcharges, and sometimes it goes in the consumer's favor. Like, they're happy, they got the grade they didn't expect, and so they were, willing to pay the price because then their card was more valuable. That,
Hmm.
whatever, I get that. But then you have the opposite end of it, like there was several examples at the National where PSA was throwing a number on a card that the guy knew he couldn't sell the card for. They were telling him, I don't remember specific numbers, but let's say they told him his card was $100,000, and so he had to pay 3,000 more to get it graded, and he knew all along that he could only sell it for 50 grand. But you know, that's still a lot of money, but they just simply set a price, and it was a one-on-one card.
Yeah.
How are they the right to say what that card is then valued? right? There's been no established sale of it. So
Right.
they have zero reason or right to then tell that consumer who's saying my card is 50,000. They have no right to tell the consumer, "Oh no, sir, we say it's 100,000. You have
Yeah.
to pay us."
Right.
Because if you go down that route, you know, they can say, "Well, this is a 101. It's $1 million."
Sure.
You know, so I don't
Yeah.
like that part of the policies.
Yeah. To
Um,
be held at ransom is kind of, a little distasteful. But, that's PSA's thing. They've always been that way.
yeah,
You
and
know.
I'm not like I'm not even so concerned with, yeah, it's silly, but at the same time, I kind of understand some of it because of insurance and them backing their grades, yada yada yada. There's so many different ways you can look at it, but I get the different pricing for different values and different speeds or what have you. I just don't think I don't like when they say what the value of a card is, especially a card that has no actual
No
stated
history.
market value, you
Right.
know? That's just then an opinion. That's their opinion, and if it's my card and I say, "No, I was expecting to sell this for $2,000." You have no right to tell me, "But no, sir, it's 100,000." If
Hmm.
I'm selling it for 2,000, what would the market do? The market would then say, "Well, the comp on this is $2,000."
Yeah.
They're not gonna say, "Well, PSA said it was 100,000." No, they're gonna say the comp on it was $2,000 because that's what I would have then sold it for.
Yeah.
So I just don't like that stuff.
Kind of tells you
But
why
anyway,
they bought a data tool. You know.
yeah, well,
So
the data
this
tool
would.
does no good though if there's been no sale of the card.
Yeah, but then all they're going to do is say, "Hey, well, we're just going to guesstimate."
Right,
that's
right.
just it.
Right,
So
but I mean, if I take my car in to get an oil change, I don't want them to just guesstimate how much oil they're putting back in it.
right.
So um, it's kind of one of those things. Like I want to take it to somebody that I know and trust, and
Yeah.
I'm not saying I don't trust their grading or whatever. That we can go all day about the standards and all that stuff, but um, I don't know. It's a personal thing. It's a personal preference. Um, and maybe it's just also I like to know what I have to pay when I send something in. And I know most companies have little nuances with them that could make me feel the same way. But yeah, it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
But
But
congrats
see,
to them.
but like I
Condolence,
said,
shout out to them for changing. But
yeah, exactly like I said though. I mean, that should be the bigger issue for PSA, to get a consumer like yourself, who first tried out their service and decided to go the other way. They never address that. They never do. They just say,
the
"Well,
funny
there's
thing
somebody else will come along."
The funny thing is, I sit back and kind of smile. And I'm not like saying that in a bad way, but I sit back and kind of smile because like I said, next month. Well, actually, I sent my order into them over 3 years ago now, but it was next month would be 3 years that I got it back. And when I started using SGC again, there was like so much stuff coming from every direction, and why don't you use PSA, and like all of the PSA support was out there, and I told I was backing my own feeling that, look, things can change, right? Things can change. And it's honestly funny to see how much support has grown from that period of when I started using SGC to the support they're getting today. It's
Yeah.
grown.
Oh yeah.
But then on the flip side of that coin, how many comments are all floating around out there? How many times you hear people say, the upcharge is a scam, this is a scam, and it's like, oh, well, 2.5 years ago, 2.5+ years ago, so many people were arguing with me, and I was wrong, but now everybody's saying the same thing. It's like, see, things can change. People are starting to see, they're learning. And as you said, there should be a concern for them because the more people that start thinking that way, and don't get me wrong, they got enough customers, they got enough cards. They're probably not sweating much because, as you said, the next person will come along. You know, they might use another company, get a bad sale, and like, well, I could have sold it for 2 times more with PSA, and they'll run right back for the monetary value. I get the business side of it. You know, people are, if they're doing it for the business, they want the most money. There's several different things that go involved with why people use them, but it's nice to at least see that people have learned or seen themselves or are starting to speak on the same things that was being argued with myself, you know, 2.5+ years ago. It's nice to finally see I wasn't just a fool saying this stuff, you know. People are now seeing it themselves. So anyway, again, you know, congrats to them for being able to move their price down. We'll have to see how it goes. You know, I'll mention CSG again. They do have a 20% off special for October. Curious to see the demand that comes in for them. That puts their bulk pricing around $12. So good for them. That's a nice price for some lower end cards. That has a declared value of $250.
Do you like that?
Never.
Do you like their label?
I actually really do like CSG Slab.
Yeah,
I
so do I.
like it. Crystal clear. The label is that the green label.
I wasn't a
Like
fan of that.
the green label was a reverse catfish. It was ugly as all could be in photos, but when you got it in hand, it wasn't that like it wasn't that bad, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
It's like the reverse of HGA. HGA looks okay, like their labels look okay in pictures, but in hand, I can't stand their labels. Like I don't like their slab at all. In pictures, they look okay.
Yeah.
CSG was the opposite. In pictures, the label, the green label, looked ugly. But when you got it in hand, you're like, oh, well, this isn't as intrusive as I thought it was. You know,
Yeah.
it doesn't look that bad.
It used to look
The
like
new label, though,
the
it's really
oversized.
nice.
It looks like the oversized SGC label. You know, that's what I always compared it to. I was like, okay, that old green
Oh,
ugly
yeah, the
color.
green one. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, it's just an oversized SGC label, and I'm like,
I think the difference with it in hand, it has a hologram around the big green box.
yeah,
And so it's not just this weird green color. It actually like has a little shine to it, you know. So it was more appealing in hand than but the green kind of takes away from the cards.
yeah,
The new label though, it looks really nice. The black, I like how they put the black fading into like it almost looks like the label's dirty, if that
yeah.
makes any sense, because they put like a black shadow to kind of not make it just this white pop. And I
Yep.
think that kind of helps your eyes stay on the card.
Yeah.
You know, it's taking away that focus of that big white label there with just some writing on it, and it helps move your eyes down to what's important, which is the card. And then they do have the slab clarity, which helps you enjoy the card.
Yeah,
So yeah, I do like their
that
slabs. I
crystal
do.
clear case, man.
Yeah, they're very nice.
It's great.
And then something else that we'll go ahead and talk to. I don't think either one of us will ever use it, but I thought it would be a fun conversation because why not? Everybody loves talking grading, and it seems to be that before long, every product on the shelf at your local store, whether you choose Walmart, Target, or whatever, um, it looks like there might be a company out there that can put it in a plastic holder with a numerical graded label on it. So remember, guys, next time you go and fill up your shopping cart, Christmas is coming around. Do not open anything because it seems that all will eventually have a slab coming soon. What I'm speaking on, obviously, is the 2 new announcements over the course of this week. PSA is now grading Funko Pops. I'm not knocking it. I think that's a smart idea. I've actually wondered. I'm surprised it didn't happen sooner. They were already doing the autograph authentication, which is a big thing with Funkos. You know, there's a lot of people. I don't know if you ever watched the guy, but Franchise Kicks, He has a really popular YouTube channel. He does a lot of like Amazon pallets, and he's kind of like a liquidator guy almost in a sense. He buys Amazon return pallets and stuff like that, and then has like a store where he sells stuff, and
Mhm.
eBay he sells stuff. Um,
He's
but
still
then
a
he
he's
also
still a middleman.
he does have his own store.
He does.
But yeah, he buys a lot of return pallets and does videos showing what's in the return pallet. It's kind of fun
Uh-huh.
to watch. Him and his wife kind of show and show the pallets off, and they
I'll
have
have
some
to,
fun videos sometimes.
I'll
But he
definitely take a look.
also is like a sneaker collector. He also does Funko Pops. He does comic book. A lot of collector. He's even done sports cards before. Um, but he does a lot with the Funkos, and he takes them and like he tries to build a collection um, of ones that he gets signed by actors or what have you, characters. And so the autograph thing made sense, and now they're just going to go ahead and do grading on them, which also makes sense. Part of the value importance is of the box, and let's be real, a full box is a bit more difficult to tell one person to the other of condition than a sports card. And if we have grading for a sports card, so we don't argue over the condition of a card, I could see it really being useful for a Funko Pop. So interesting to see how that plays out. I do have it pulled up here so we can talk about it in a minute. Pricing wise, we just went over card grading. So Funko Pop grading is going to start at $39.
What?
That's no autograph authentication or autograph grade on them.
$39?
39. That's a lot of plastic, though. It is a lot of plastic. Um,
Yeah.
and I don't know the value of these things. Like, I own some. You can see back there. I do own Funkos, a few of them. Um, I don't have a very big supply. I will say another thing with the Funkos, and this is something that may not be thought of. Um, they're not something I have. Again, I don't have a lot of them, but everybody in my household has a small bit of them that we've collected.
Mm.
Like, so the missus has some, my daughter has some, my son has some, and I have some. So they're actually a collectible that can appeal to like the entire family in a sense, which
Yeah.
is kind of cool too. So it may take off, maybe a fun thing that people get into. I don't know. Um, but it's
Not it.
$39. Turnaround says less than 45 days. So looks like they're going to be cranking out the Funkos. Your cards are going to have to wait. They got Funko Pop grading to do.
Oh gosh.
For dual service, which is autograph authentication and pop grading, is $64. So you're going to pay an additional $25 to get the autograph authenticated. And then if you want the autograph graded, as well as authenticated, as well as the pop authenticated and graded, that will cost you another $10, and that will be $74.
Okay, and
So
you're saying PSA is doing this.
PSA is doing Funko Pop grading. Yes, sir.
Okay, so where are they going to upcharge you on Funko Pops too?
There is no pricing levels.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting point there, sir.
Yeah.
Good catch. Yeah, there's no there's only 3 service levels.
Yeah.
And actually only one of them is currently available. You cannot do the dual or the full service right now.
Yeah. I can already see it.
Yeah, it's a very interesting thing. And again, I don't know what these things are worth. I do know some of them have some value to them, like the vaulted ones and everything.
Yeah.
But I don't know in terms, and maybe this is why they're not doing it. Like, maybe they don't even know. Like, is a PSA 10 Batman first appearance Funko Pop going to have a high amount of value? Who the hell knows? I mean, we don't know. So maybe that's why they're like, hey, guys, we slip a lot of things out there to get people, but we don't even have a clue of what to value these Funkos. Maybe that's what they're doing. I don't know.
They'll come up with the number without a
But
doubt.
that's something to keep an eye on, is a TBD. If things start hitting the market, if we start getting a pop ladder, a Funko ladder, whatever the pricing, the data tool comes out for them, if it does, a Beckett Funko, where we start seeing prices floating around. Maybe they adjust their service pricing. I don't know. But no, it's a standard 3 levels of service. And the other 2 levels are whether or not you just want the autograph authenticated or if you want the autograph authenticated and graded. So, yeah, pricing is $39, $64, or $74 for that. But then there's more. If you're not if you are just a nutso collector and you have all of your, I'm going to share my age, but not show my age. I'm going to be honest. I don't know when they came out, but I know they were out in the 80s. I think they might have been out in the 70s. Oh yeah, they were definitely, because Star Wars. Okay. If you have your 70s VHS tapes laying around, you did not ever watch the movie, and well, they might do them open box. I don't know. But if you have your VHS collection, and I know you do, Refractor, I know you love your tapes, you've been hiding all of them. Beckett BGS Grading is now offering the superior service of grading your VHS cassette tapes.
Yeah, well,
Are we going a little too far?
That's funny because there's a couple other companies that actually do VHS, and
Yeah.
I can remember it, and this is, not to throw any free advertising out there, not that he needs it or anything, but Golden's auction was throwing out there, hey, where's your VHS collection? Do you have sealed VHS? Look how many VHS we're selling here that are sealed, and it's now the new collectible. So I laughed my butt off because I just happened to be sitting in a Goodwill parking lot waiting for a guy to meet me and to bring me his collection. He didn't want me coming to his house for whatever reason, so I assumed
His
that
VHS collection?
No, his baseball card collection. So, but it's funny. So I told him, I said, well, I'm going inside Goodwill because, I'm already here. And he's like, well, I'm about half hour, 45 minutes away. And I was like, okay, whatever. I said, I'm just going to go inside and walk around. And it was funny because I went inside and what did I see? Probably 10 to 15 sealed VHS tapes. And I just got done seeing a post on Instagram, of course, that that Kenny did with his VHS racket, saying that these are going to be the next big thing. So I said, oh, okay, well then maybe I should start buying these. So I went ahead and bought the darn things. I paid, I think they were like 69 cents a piece. They were sealed, and I bought them. And then there were some other ones that actually got put out, and I left them there. I didn't do anything. So I met the guy, bought his collection, and I went home. And then I thought about it. I was like, I posted it on Instagram, and a lot of people started talking about it, about all the tapes, because I had like Boys in the Hood, I had the National Lampoons, I had a couple of horror, movie titles, and they were all sealed. They're all brand new, and they just look like they came off the assembly line. I mean, they were in perfect shape. But then when I looked up what it cost to actually grade them, because I was like, oh, maybe I'll grade a couple, and it was like 89, 90 bucks, and I was like, hell no.
So
I'm not taking away my cardboard money.
So for the Beckett VHS grading,
Yeah.
it is for 90-day turnaround time.
Okay.
It is $64. For 30-day turnaround time, it is $98. I believe that says. The website is weird. Yeah. Then that doesn't tell me very well.
Well, that's Beckett for you.
It's hard to let me change my glasses. Their website, the way the coloring and everything is, it's hard for me to tell. Okay, yeah, $98 for 30 business days, and then if you need to get them into the Golden Elite auction, and you need it back quickly, you got your hands on some monster VHS tapes, you hit the Goodwill gold mine. Okay. $198 for 5 business day turnaround time.
That's crazy. And if people don't believe me that I bought these, go to my Instagram page and you will see them on my Instagram page. I actually made like a little reel about them and everything, and they're in my history in my feed there. I thought it was the funniest thing in the world that the VHS was now being pushed as the new big collectible. I was like, okay, well, how about Betamax? Are we going to start doing betas also? And
Yeah, I mean,
and how about my laser disc? Because
I
I,
want to
you
make
know,
sure
I I've got I've got at least 500 laser discs here. So I mean, we're gonna start grading those next.
we laugh at the pricing, and I have to say, um, I mean, there's a company out here. I'm not familiar with them, but they do a lot of different things. So they must be, I would say, probably popular. It says the authority for your collection. But anyway, there's a site here called CGA Grading,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
it looks like they do action figures. They do die cast like Hot Wheels and stuff. They have some video games. They do WWF wrestling stuff, but it says they do VHS as well. They do starting lineups. Um, so the VHS just an acrylic display case, which this is a top loader, I guess, for your VHS tapes if you don't want to go the grading route. So I mean, this is what I say. We're laughing about it, but at the same time, to get it slabbed and graded, it's going to be $64. And then for CGA grading, just to get like essentially, I'm guessing like a VHS top loader or a VHS one touch because it says acrylic display case. The prices range from $15.99 to $36. Um, Let me click on this just to see.
Do you know how much
Uh,
weight each package is going to be? I mean,
so
you're going to get
There's
killed
other
just
features
in.
here. The 15.99 because I wanted to see what the difference was. The 15.99 is your standard acrylic with no wall mount. If you want the standard acrylic with wall mount, it's 20.99. For UV resistant, no wall mount, it's 35.99. Add the wall mount, it's 40.99. So $41 for a UV resistant wall mounted acrylic VHS display case. I don't even think I paid, but like I think they were only like maybe $60 for my display case that's UV acrylic for like 30 plus sports cards.
Yeah.
Man, that's an expensive case. Like, whew. So again, we're laughing at the pricing for the grading, but I guess some of this stuff is just pricey. $40 for just a case. My thing is this, okay? You're a liquidator. You see a lot of products. You mentioned you went to Goodwill and seen some. On older VHS tapes, older video games, even, there's other products out there, I'm sure. I'm just not thinking of them right now. Well, older wax. I mean, older wax boxes didn't even come shrink wrap. That's why BVCE exists.
Right.
Um, but like an older VHS tape, from my memory, there's nothing there that really tells you that it's still in its original wrap on some
Hmm.
of those tapes, right? Like I don't remember
Well,
them having any like stickers or anything like that to seal them.
the cellophane is natural on it. You know, the natural cellophane that's hot sealed.
Yeah,
But there's a tape. There's actually a seal tape on a
I know
lot
they
of
used
them.
to do that on some of them, but in the early days, did they have that on there?
Yeah, a lot of them did. They did that just for, straight security reasons to get people to keep them honest and not get a little, heat sealing machine and then reseal them and take them back. Because once the actual VHS recorder came out, people were just taking their tape, recording, on a blank,
And
and
putting
then
it back in the box.
putting it back in the box, sealing it up, you
I
know,
didn't. I just
heating
didn't
it up
remember
and
the. I didn't
taking it
remember
back.
the sticker being on the older ones. But again, I wasn't. And this isn't like to knock on you. I wasn't around in the '70s, so this would have been in the '80s, and I don't remember like
Yeah, it's
you know.
late '70s, late '70s, early '80s. You know, when that stuff was around. But you can go to every garage sale and you're going to find one sealed VHS tape. So it's not like they're rare or anything. Someone's always going to have one sealed VHS tape sitting around in
Yeah,
their
because
yard. So
it was stuff people gave as gifts and stuff back in the day.
yeah,
And how many times like unless you absolutely wore the movie out, if you got in, 2 or 3 copies for Christmas and birthdays of a movie, you're only opening one of them, so I could definitely see that. The reason I ask about the security thing is I just want to throw this out there for anyone that possibly is into that realm. I was at a family I think the store was Family Dollar, and they had a rack of video games, like,
and I know where you're going.
they had, like, the Nintendo Wii and the Switch games and stuff like the Nintendo ones,
Yep.
and they were on a rack, and they were wrapped, and
Mm.
you really could not tell that they were resealed games.
Yeah, all
There was a
pre-played.
sign on the rack that said, "These are refurbished games that have been resealed."
Mhm.
But when you looked at them, like, they had the folded edges where they were stuck down with the plastic, and everything looked legit.
Yep.
And so that's why I couldn't remember how VHSs were necessarily packaged, and if there was anything that would stand out to show that the tape had actually been opened, because those, like, if I hadn't spotted that sign, I would have probably been bit by the gimmick on those resealed games at that family because they were cheap. There was some Nintendo titles. Now, I know you can still get it graded and all of that kind of stuff, and they do like an open box, and I think they even do a resealed thing or whatever. But
Oh, they even grade them when they're opened, and they've been.
in video games, they do. You can
Oh
do
no, no, no.
complete.
Yeah, video games. Yes, I thought you were saying VHS that they do
That
those.
I again,
I
I'm
don't
just
see
here
any.
on a page where it tells me pricing.
I don't see any value in
Um,
that though. You know, there's.
I
I mean,
don't I don't let's go to click grade VHS. Let's
I mean,
see
if
here.
if I'm gonna say that there is any kind of value in that, it has to be because it's sealed. You know, otherwise, what you know,
I don't know
unless
where the news is for this. Like,
or if it's
it's
an
not telling me anything.
OOP, right? I mean, because you know there are OOPs, out of print titles that
Right.
just never made it to a DVD because one, they didn't want to pay royalties to actors and everything else. So they just said, hey, it's staying in VHS form.
You know, so one of them that they show here on their site is Back to the Future, and that came out. What did that
80,
come out?
84,
84,
I think, like
85,
84.
somewhere in
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
So
84, 85.
that's kind of like it does have the stamping on the plastic. So that's one thing there. So maybe it's just like previous back to where Star Wars was 77, and
Yeah.
that the late 70s, early 80s may not have had anything on the plastic, but it looks and maybe again, I'm not finding much information here. So we're just discussing this as like how many different things are we going to get put in plastic now? But it looks like they bought a company because the display slabs that they have on their website actually have some company called VHS DNA on it. They had shared another photo of, I guess, the new Beckett label and Beckett slab. So they're changing the labeling and everything. But it's weird on there, and I'll show you the listeners aren't going to be able to
Are they gonna have?
see this.
Is it gonna be that gold label?
Yeah, it's gonna have like a gold label.
Oh man, is it
Um,
really? Because
but see, this says
the late.
VHS DNA. So this isn't
Huh.
the slab, like this is the design of it, but
Yeah,
it's actually gonna have like a Beckett label and stuff on here. So, but anyway, the point to this is, um,
it looks like a headstone. You know,
you
I
know
mean,
what the first thing I said? And it's funny because so someone shared this in a Discord group I'm in, and my first thought, and they agreed with me. They were like, "You know what? I thought the same thing. I thought it looked like a trophy.
Yeah,
Like it looked like it wasn't it the one of the All-Star game trophies where it had that slanted
yeah,
cut to it and it was like a star or something on it.
yeah.
That's kind of what it reminded me of, is like this little trophy thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
And
I have an ESPY, an original ESPY trophy that is shaped the exact same way. It's
yeah, so that was my first thought. I was like, that thing looks like a damn trophy, right? Which I
yeah,
mean, it's not a bad thing, but yeah.
right.
So they were like, it's the same thing. Um, so it's funny because we just talked about the industry summit earlier this week, and I seen that they handed out some awards last night,
Hmm.
or in the past couple of days, whenever it was, and
Yeah,
they put those in a Beckett slab, and I was like, well, why didn't they just use the award slab? But then
yeah.
you got to think about it. The cheapest price to get one of these slabs is $65, so maybe that's why. But yeah, they put them in some oversized, huge, and it was weird. The one person I seen the post, I'm not throwing any names out there. Um, they won two, and the way it was like all typed out, Beckett didn't even type it the same way. Like their names were shifted in different patterns on from one to the other, and I was
Mhm.
like, they couldn't even make it like the same font size and everything. I was like, what the hell's going on here?
What did
But
Brian win two this year?
Brian who?
Gray?
I don't know. It wasn't him. It
Oh,
was
it
the
wasn't.
ones I
Okay.
seen weren't him.
All right.
I don't know. Like this was shared.
Like I said,
Um,
it's the good old boy network, kind of thing, because it's like these
yeah,
guys end up winning one every year, or
yeah.
every other year.
I'll tell you after we're done, um, because I didn't even know there was an award for this category, but it was funny.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
it tells you I don't even pay attention to it anymore. It's just like a waste of
yeah,
time.
but so the point to this whole conversation was, obviously we wanted to discuss the shift in the pricing for the grading world and sports cards and everything. But what else can we get wrapped in plastic? Like I told you before, this is a joke, but I wasn't joking. I really wish we could have played the Barbie song, Barbie World throughout, like softly in the background while we're talking, because that theme of wrapped in plastic. Like, what else can we have wrapped in plastic? I mean, let's think about this a second. We have
Bu-
wax.
Bubble Boy.
Yeah, I mean, but we have wax. We have now VHS. We have Funko Pops. We have cards.
Hmm.
We have action figures. We have Hot Wheels. We have video games. We have like photos. If you get into the Type 1 photos and stuff like that,
Yeah.
um, like really, how far are we going here? Like, should we
Ho-
start saving cereal boxes? Are we going to start getting like Wheaties grading? Can we
Well,
get the cereal boxes graded? Or
I buy one in every collection. I mean, I know I'll never go hungry because I can always eat the Wheaties because everybody always left the darn thing sealed.
do you remember the 90s? I can't remember if there was any in the 80s, but the collectible cans,
Yeah,
like Pepsi and Coke would do the Super Bowl cans or
yeah,
the Super Bowl bottle. Are we going to get those? I
yeah.
mean, we've already, like Funko Pops have already swooped in. They've already got their grading. Like they've already got their slab made and everything. There's still some stuff from the 80s and 90s that people collected that, oh wait, we got currency, we got coins, we got comic, like everything. Everything is now wrapped in plastic. You don't even open it, and
Yeah,
then you get put in another layer of plastic. So,
because even Beanie Babies get graded, right? Because I believe there was Beanie Baby grading.
right. So it like we're
The
saying
wo-
this in a manner to have a little bit of fun, but share some information. But at the same time, it's a legitimate question. Like, do you even open anything when you go to the store anymore? Like, do
yeah,
you go buy something, bring it home, keep it in its packaging?
buy two.
Yep. Yeah, I guess you could do that as well. But then if your product winds up being six figures, you're gonna be like, shit, I had one of those.
Yeah.
So
The
I,
one collectible that was big in the 90s that has not come back, and it surprised me because there's a lot of different genres that are in it, that are based in it. And I'm surprised guys, that do like a lot of the Marvel stuff are not buying this kind of stuff. Even the sports stuff is the Pogs,
I've actually had someone message me and ask if SGC graded Pogs.
Oh, dude.
So
Oh,
there have
man.
been people that have looked into the market.
Oh, boy.
Yes, I've actually had more than one person actually has asked me if SGC grades Pogs. So there are people out there that would use the service. Shout out to anybody if you're listening, you have a grading company or access to start up another like segment of your company. Throw Pogs on your whiteboard.
Well, I
But
mean,
yeah, like
PSA could already do them because they're the size of the Colgan, the old Colgan chips,
yeah,
cards. I mean, they're basically the same size, so they can be done. So,
yeah. I mean, it's just I don't know. It like me and the wife, we go to the store sometimes, or we'll see commercials on TV or whatever. Excuse me. And it's honestly really crazy when you look at even toys or movies or whatever. There's very little like innovation in any of it. They might change the way like He-Man looks, but they brought back He-Man figures. They brought
mhm,
back, they might change the way the My Little Ponies are made or they look, but they brought back My Little Ponies.
mhm.
You got all of the movie, the new Top Gun. There's always the new version of an old movie.
Yep.
Like, are we stuck in the 80s and 90s?
Well,
I
we're
mean,
we're we're kind of stuck in that, but history always repeats itself. Even though people say no, history doesn't repeat itself, it does. It's just it's rewashed and retreaded over and over again. I mean,
maybe it's just because, and we joke with each other about age, but you you have a couple more years of the experience on this. But realistically, we've lived in one of the most interesting times possibly ever in history and maybe even the future because you think about where we were in the world when we were young and the way things are today. I mean, we can watch we're sitting here across the country recording an hour-long episode of a podcast for people all over the world to see us or hear us from the comfort of our home on a computer. I mean, none of this stuff existed when we were kids,
mhm,
right? Like none of it.
yeah,
We can now watch movies or videos or listen to music or what have you right from a phone that's detached from the wall that fits in our pocket, right?
yeah.
We can go on to this thing called the internet and find information. Even, we're not that old, but you know, 25 years ago, we had to go to the library and pull out the encyclopedias to find information about anything.
Yeah.
Baseball, we couldn't just pop on and type ESPN.com or MLB.com. We had to wait for the morning paper and look at the box scores,
Mhm.
and that was the way we seen a non-local, uh, how the scores was from a non-local baseball game.
Yep.
Um, I
USA Today.
remember I'm
That's
not that old, but I remember having like 5 channels on TV, and now there's 500 plus with 50 plus different streaming options.
yeah.
Um, it's just crazy to see the way everything has evolved, but then at the same time, even though with all of the evolution, everything from our childhood is recycled back in. Like,
Hmm.
the toys, the Teddy Ruxpins, I mean, like everything. It's
Because
the Tickle Me
it just
Elmos. All of it
yeah, but it
is
didn't get
recycled right back in.
right, but it didn't get the exposure. That's what it is. So now it's getting the real exposure. It's out there for everyone to see and everyone to enjoy. So they're like, hey, we can make money on this all over again.
Yeah, I mean, and since we are a sports card hobby channel, um, a hobby podcast. What's your thoughts? What if the internet never came about? What if eBay never existed? What if we trended on from the 90s where it's quote unquote junk wax? That's the coined phrase that it was used. Would things have faded out? Would it stayed strong? Would it have would we have maybe twice as much as we did then? Because as you just mentioned, this exposure wasn't there. So we were kind of immune and gullible to the fact of how much was actually being printed because we didn't know. You didn't see it everywhere. We didn't know what was going
Mhm.
on. We relied on a magazine, same way that we relied on box scores from a newspaper. We relied on a magazine to tell us what was going on in the hobby. Where do you see the hobby being today if all of the other things were never created or existed?
I mean, we'd probably still be in the same way, but we'd probably be better off, truthfully, because a lot of people weren't. Um, I think more people were more engaged in the sports card hobby back in the 80s and 90s. I like genuinely, in it. Now everything really revolves around the dollar. There are people in it, but they're in it for the money. Back in the 80s and
So
90s, it was the joy of going to a show and having fun with your dad, having fun with your uncle, me having fun with my grandmother. So it's nothing like that anymore.
So I'm gonna tie this in and to what you said and the reason like and with the question I asked because you have a valid point that it possibly could be better today. And I'm gonna tie this over with a video that I know we both watched that Bench Clear did talking about you don't need skills or knowledge in the hobby, you only need money. And was posed off of a comment made by one of their viewers
Hmm.
about how, if you have money, you could literally go buy every card that's ever made in the highest grade ever made. And I've seen both sides to the argument or the discussion. It wasn't really an argument, but I've seen both sides of the discussion. But there's also something that I talk with a good friend of both of ours, JJ, a lot. And I think you're right. I think if and don't get me wrong, the internet's great, eBay's great, all of that is great.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
I
we
think
we wouldn't have this.
we wouldn't have this, but at the same time, one of the most outside of the community and the friendships, one of the most exciting parts of the hobby itself for some people, I'm not going to say for all people, but for some people is the hunt. You know, people hunt things in different ways, whether you do it as a sport for game hunting, but in sports cards, you can be a hunter. You can hunt research, you can hunt specific cards, you can hunt rare things that you just don't see. You, we all have at some point like a grail that we're hunting, right?
Hmm.
And the internet and eBay and social media and all that has kind of like put up trail cams with nothing but feed plots all around. And, for a game hunter, it's just a field where it's fenced in and they grow the deer or whatever that they're hunting. And for sports cards, it's like, okay, you go and just type in a name and boom. Normally it comes up. It's taken away some of the difficulty of the hunt. Now, there's that, I think that's why the rare stuff, like the rare Jordan inserts, are so valuable because to find one takes a lot of time, effort, energy, connections, networking, that sort of thing. And then you have to have the money to be able to obtain it.
Hmm.
Um, but I think you're right. I think even on a smaller scale, your lower valued cards would still have a significance because to obtain them would be more difficult.
Yep.
Today, we have everything laid out in our hands. How many different buying platforms are out there? How many different grading companies are out there? That tells you alone, like how much is at our exposure now. back then it was more, I don't want to say innocent because there was a lot of shady stuff that happened and
Oh
we
no,
weren't exposed to that. So I'm not
right.
saying innocent,
But
but
we
it
were at
was,
the same time we were kids, so we didn't
yeah.
know. So
Yeah, I mean, we didn't know that there was potentially a million plus 89 Upper Deck Griffies. I'll be honest, I never owned one as a kid.
mhm.
I I personally, my entire life, and as long as I've even stated that I've been in this hobby, this will shock you because I know you've got tons of them. I have owned one 89
Really,
Upper Deck Griffey. Yep,
that's it.
that's it. And it's because I never chased the card.
Yeah,
Like if it was there or I never got a complete set of 89 Upper Deck as a kid. I don't ever, unless they were packaged in one of them random candy canes or something like that. I don't remember opening the 89 Upper Deck packs.
mm-mm.
We all remember they were the pricey packs, right? I was
$5,
running. I didn't get an allowance. Like
right?
I had to, it was usually holidays and stuff, and my parents weren't going to go spend. They were going to buy me the cheap stuff. They weren't buying me the premium pack. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I didn't get, exposed to all that. And if I went to a card shop, we know what the prices of them were back then. Little me didn't have the money to go in and buy one. So yeah, I didn't own one. I bought my first one. I don't know how many years ago it was now, but I got it for, I don't know, 20 some dollars. It's a PSA 8. It's right there in my display case. I enjoy it. That's all I need. I'm happy with it. I have my 89 Upper Deck. But yeah, I mean, that just goes to show that back then, even though a card like that had so many copies of it made, I was 9 years old in 89. There was tons of them, sure,
Mhm.
but not everybody was exposed to it.
Yeah,
Today, hell, we've probably sent in over 100 of them in just our group submission. It's not shocking to see anymore.
yeah.
So yeah, I agree with you. I think the accessibility has made the hobby good, and it's still fun. Meeting people. There's two sides of it that I really enjoy. That I just said the friendships, the communications, but then the hunt. Like hunting, that's such a fun part, especially when you accomplish like getting what you were hunting for. I look at the card that everybody knows I want that has eluded me. The one card, it's not something everybody's out there looking for, but there is one card that everybody knows that I really, really, really want,
I wonder
and
if
I've
it's still
never
sitting.
even seen it.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it's still sitting in a pack.
That's why the missus bought me 3 boxes last year for Christmas, just to give me the opportunity to open and at least say I tried for it. And those boxes are not freaking cheap either, even though there's some decent players in it, but the card I'm hunting, if it showed up, I could probably buy it cheaper than the boxes.
Yeah.
But and the other side to that is I haven't even seen the non-autographed versions. Like I have the autographed ones that I'm doing the rainbow and stuff for. I've never even seen the non-auto. So that just goes to
Have
show.
you asked him? Did you ask him if
Yeah,
he's at all seen it
I asked
or
him. Well, I asked his wife. She says she's
mm.
never seen it, but that she would let me know.
Well,
Yeah,
because
I did already. I cut that out of the equation.
okay, because this is done a lot, by Tops. Tops would even produce an extra of that card. We had discussed this before because they did
Mhm.
replacements and that kind of stuff. But times they would make a superfractor and they would make more than one, of course. And what they would do is they would give one to the player and say, "Hey, we're not going to put a sticker on it or anything, but here's a piece of your line that you did, and this is one of many."
Yeah, I asked, and I was told he doesn't have it
Okay.
because I did check that. I have his 2015, which is the rookie copy. And for our listeners out there, if you don't know or unaware, I've been hunting the 2014 Bowman Chrome Michael Taylor for the Washington Nationals Super Fractor. Um, Never seen a photo of the card, and let alone the card itself. But I do have this 2015 Topps Chrome, the rookie Superfractor. I do have that one. And I have a paper. I think they called them the white ice. I think is what they called them. It looks like the almost like a Bowman Platinum,
Yeah.
like bubbly look. I do
Yeah.
have that on the 101, but I have not found the Bowman Chrome one. So, but
So
my
here's,
point is here,
but
like,
here, let me hold on. Let me freeze you there for a second. Now I'm going to throw something at you that's very disheartening. It could have already died. You know, that card could have already run its
yeah,
course, and it's never going to pop up ever again because it could have went away in a natural disaster. It could have went away in somebody's collection, and it got thrown away. Whatever reason,
it
there's
could still be sealed. And not everybody's out there running to open 2014 Bowman Chrome. I am very well aware. My point is, and the reason I brought that card up is that still lights that fire in all of us. If we have something that is so elusive like that, you know, if I found that card, do you absolutely know how excited I would be?
oh
I
yeah,
mean,
absolutely, yeah,
like that's my it's not my end game because there will be something else afterwards.
yeah.
But that
But it
is
would
the
it
card.
would it would be your favorite card.
Yeah, I mean, well, it wouldn't be my favorite. My favorite card will always be my favorite card. That will never change. Um, but it would be my favorite find. It would be
One
my
A,
favorite.
okay, 1A.
Um, yeah, it'd be tough to top the card with me and my kids though.
Yeah,
Um, but no, yeah, that's my chase. That's my hunt. Um, and
you
I may never find it, and I'm perfectly acceptant of that. I've actually just because of that whole thing, I kind of took my rainbow to a different route that I hunt now too, just in case the 101 never pops up. I own 3 of the 10 total copies of the red refractors. You know, there's 5 autos, 5 non-autos. I
mhm.
own 3 of the 10. I have 2 autos and 1 non-auto. So I placed a goal. If any red pops up, I try to buy it. And then the other thing I've done is I've started chasing and like I'll go on eBay every so often and start hunting and look at the backs of all the cards. And I've been trying to complete the rainbow with the jersey number. And I've
Oh
actually
wow,
gotten pretty far. But the higher the number goes, it's funny. Like to track down the low numbers is normally hard. But when you go to do jersey number, the higher number it goes, it gets hard. So I have all the lower numbered ones. I've found all of them. Um, I have the 3 of 5, the 3 of 10, the 15, all the way up to I think I have the green out of 99. I think that's where I'm at. I think the next one I need is like the blue out of 150. Um, so I've been hunting those, and like it's a player I really enjoy collecting, and having that fun with the hunt. So I want back to the topic. The reason where this came from. I do think the hobby would be in a strong place still.
it would.
I'm not saying it's in a bad place right now. I'm just saying I think for your answer to the post question, I do think it would be strong. I think people would really that the collectors who are hunting stuff like you as a set collector. Imagine that.
Yeah,
15. What do you have? 15 of the 93 finest refractor sets.
yeah. I'm four cards short of a 16 set.
I mean, where would you be without the internet or Instagram or social media? I mean, you
Yeah,
might let's be, and I'm not knocking like your hustle, but you might be at 2 or 3,
yeah,
but you would still have that burning fire to continue on.
Yeah, but
So,
for me, it was always going to the shows though, because that's how I acquired everything. You know, every time that I would go to a show, that's where I'm always buying bulk anyway. So it's always been a show thing for me. You know, even though we have the internet and we're able to search and you know to buy some here and there, the shows have always been more of a venue for me to acquire my stuff. So, like this weekend with Las Vegas Card Show, that we're having a big show. I know I'll go there and I'll leave with a couple thousand refractors because there'll be guys that'll show up and they're going to be like, "Hey, I set I set these aside for you, so here, take them." So shows are always going to be near and dear to me versus buying online.
so I know we're an hour and 15 minutes in. I'm going to give a little spoiler here because we started the episode off with some pricing changes. There's already, I don't have full details. I was supposed to take a phone call before we started recording this. Maybe we should have delayed this so I had the information. But it looks like SGC has adjusted pricing. But I don't have full details. It looks like, yeah, it looks like they're going to have a service level at $18. It looks like they're offering a public bulk, essentially. If you do 50 plus cards, you can get it for $18. If you do 20 to 49 cards, it'll be $20. 10 to 19 cards is $22. 1 to 9 cards is $24. So it looks like they offered a public bulk. There is still a declared value thing here, so I'm going to have to get clarification on that because they didn't have a declared value before. It's estimated stated turnaround on 5 to 10 business days. But I don't know a bulk pricing yet. I'm going to have to find out what my offering will be able to be. So it looks like they were just waiting for PSA to shift, and SGC has now moved their chess piece on the board. So the grading wars have begun.
Yeah,
So
it's good to see. I told you, you know, it was going to take PSA to be the first to make the move before before anyone else decided to move. You know,
as a
considerably.
submitter, I was put into a bad. I want to say a bad place because I felt bad, right? And I hope this opens people's eyes and clarifies to folks. I'm always going to give my honest opinion on something, whether it's the company that I have supported 100% over the past few years, or whether it's a company that I don't use. Like I stated earlier in this podcast, my thoughts on PSA. I'm going to give my honest opinion, right? I had always defended SGC's pricing, other than the time early 2021 when Peter said, "Hey, bulk subs are going to be $50," and I said, "Hey, I'm done. I'm not doing them." Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I wasn't going to tell my people, "Hey, you got to pay me $50 a card to do bulk subs." I knew my audience. I knew the people that submitted with us. That just wasn't going to fit with them, and I wasn't going to tell people you got to pay $50 a card. If I don't feel strongly on it, then I'm not going to expect others to. And when I seen my numbers with the bulk subs getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and when I seen the turnaround times getting faster and faster and faster, there started to become questions like, why haven't they changed the price? Why aren't you putting the offering back to the consumer? And so I started speaking on it. And I started to say, hey, it's time to change the price. It's time, and then people would start asking me more and more and more, hey, have you heard anything? I hadn't heard anything. Like legit, I still have not heard anything. This, and again, listeners won't see it. This was a post I was tagged in on Discord, right? So I have not spoken to anybody. I did not know anything. I didn't know this was coming. You knew that I was supposed to be taking a call from my rep. You can see that's now. I even told you, I was like, it's odd he's up this early because he was texting me at 7:30. He never texts me that early. So you know that it makes sense now. But to
Yeah.
everybody out there, if you know me or you've asked me about pricing or you submitted with us or what have you, I honestly didn't know anything. And they keep it all a secret. They keep it very well hidden. Um, I could have suspicions of something, but that's like I'm never going to give you guys information based off of a suspicion or whatever, because then I'm just putting myself in a sinkhole. If I'm wrong, then I say something that could hurt people or them or whoever. So I always like to know ahead of time. But as of right now, I will find out more. I will obviously probably be doing an update video on my channel.
Yeah. I
But
wonder if the guys that were saying, hey, that SGC doesn't need to change their price, are they going to come out and say, oh yeah, well, I'm glad SGC now changed their price?
their lifetime alerts, SGC Grading just posted a video. It is Peter. So
Yeah.
but there you
but
have it, guys. If you've made it through this long, we had live announcing in the grading wars. We started with PSAs. I mean, we only went an hour and 20 minutes and we get breaking news. Like, we can't get any quicker. Now, obviously, this news won't be, it'll be old news by tomorrow when this is uploaded. But we legit have breaking news right here live. We're recording this at 9:23 a.m. on Thursday, October 6th. 6:23 a.m. over on the Vegas coast.
Yep.
So this one had it all. We picked the correct topic to talk about today, with the PSA and CSG's discount and a little bit of VHS grading and Funko Pop grading. And
well,
I'm glad
I'm glad you saw the light and you decided to drop the prices, with your company.
It's been difficult, man. It's been difficult.
I hear.
I really,
you just got to come out of the closet. Just come out of the closet.
That's the funny part with this whole thing, is because everybody claims that the office is back there behind the flag, which is legit a walk-in closet.
Right.
But anyway, this has been a great episode. I love, we're 7 weeks in with this one. Just sitting around, chit-chatting the hobby, having fun, laughing. Even when you get, a little ticked at things like the industry summit, we can still have fun and joke around. So this has been a great ride with you, sir. And
yes, sir.
I hope everybody out there that's listening is enjoying the conversations, the chatter. And as always, guys, please comment below your thoughts. Let us know how we're doing. Are we just two grumpy old men? Are we out of our mind? But yeah, let us know. Let us know how we're doing. Join in the chatter. But as always, have a wonderful weekend, and thank you.
Thank you, everyone.